Welcome, welcome, welcome to our first session of the year. This is really exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today. This webinar is now live. If you don't see it yet, please just refresh your screen and please feel free to say hello. We always want it to be an interactive session, and let us know where you're logging in from. We're always excited to hear. We're based in the UK, but I know that people join us from all over the world. So it's always good to know who's here, and do drop a message in the chat. So I'm Jenny Garrett, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you for the first in our brand new series called How a Coach Can Help. A little bit about me. I've been coaching for 20 years. I run my own leadership consultancy, and we work with 3 areas: inclusive leadership, entrepreneurial leadership, and AI-ready leadership. Because whether we like it or not, that's where the world is heading, and leaders need to be ready. I'm also founder of the Diverse Executive Coach Directory, which is where our 3 brilliant guests today come from. I set it up to solve a problem I kept seeing: organizations wanting to work with diverse coaches, but not knowing where to find them. So we created the directory to increase visibility for talented coaches from global majority stroke ethnically diverse backgrounds. Now, before we dive in, I want to say a huge thank you on behalf of Rocking Your Teens, the social enterprise we're supporting today. Every donation goes towards building resilience and raising aspirations in teenagers. If you want to know more, head to rockingyourteens.com. We have a conference coming up on the 10th of March to inspire young women. My colleague Tanya will add the link in the chat. Now, let's talk about today's topic. Can we be honest for a second? Who here has one of those weeks where you get to Friday and think, what actually happened? You've been busy, you've been stressed, you've been putting out fires, but when you look back, you're not quite sure what you actually achieved. Does that feeling sound familiar? It definitely resonates with me. And that's what we're here to talk about today: how coaching can help you move from that constant state of overwhelm to actually feeling in control of your week. And I'm delighted to have 3 brilliant coaches with me who are all bringing different perspectives, ideas, and experience to the conversation. As I've said, they're all from the Diverse Executive Coach Directory, and Tanya's popping those links in the chat now if you want to explore later or get in touch with them. So today's format is simple. We have our 3 coaches, Jess, Martha, and Lisa. They're going to introduce themselves briefly, and then I'll ask them some questions about how coaching helps with overwhelm. After that, we'll open it up to you for your questions, and we'll be keeping an eye on the chat throughout. So do share any thoughts or questions as we go. Right, let's meet our guests. Lisa, can we start with you? Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your work, please?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm an award-winning executive career and leadership coach, host, speaker, consultant and trainer, and I empower individuals and organizations worldwide to excel. I'm also an advocate for inclusion, especially in senior leadership and communities, and I'm passionate about eradicating inequality, especially for those subjected to prejudicial treatment. My entrepreneurial endeavors have led me to co-produce and direct 3 independent documentary feature films, which highlight inspiring journeys of senior leaders here in the UK.
Oh, thank you. Wow. It's impressive work, and always lovely to hear all the things that you're doing. Thank you for sparing time for us, Lisa. Over to you, Jess.
Thanks, Jenny. Hello, everybody. So I'm Jessica Rogers. I'm an executive coach, and I also design and facilitate leadership development programs. And I've been doing this for over 15 years. And the common theme in my work is that I help leaders to strengthen their voice and to lead with authenticity, and really to advance their careers without compromising who they are. And as an addition to that, I have a new book which is coming out next month called Healing and Hopeful: From Setbacks to Stepping Stones, which will give it's a personal memoir, and it will give tips and tricks and hints to help anybody who is currently navigating life's challenges.
Thank you. We all can't wait to read it. So yeah, do let us know. Perhaps we can subscribe to a mailing list so we get to know first. I think everyone will want to know. Thank you so much, Jess. And Martha.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Martha. I'm an executive coach and somatic practitioner, soma being body. I design coaching and retreat programs for teams and leaders to create sustainable change by working for how stress, capacity and choice show up in their body and nervous system. Hopefully I'll be speaking more about how even small embodied shifts release tension through a tiny movement, so that can really reset how we respond to being overwhelmed, which is the topic of today, so that performance can flow naturally rather than being forced. So I look forward to sharing more later.
Thank you. It's very exciting to be discussing this topic with you, especially as you're all coming at it from your own unique perspectives. I want to say a quick hello to some people in the audience. Forgive me if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Vimbanashi and Valerie and Janice and Liam. Oh, very excited to have you here, and all of the others who haven't typed in the chat, but I know are watching. So great to have you here. As I've said, do type in the chat any questions or thoughts or perspectives at any time to add to the wealth of experience we have with our coaches. So I'm going to start first with Jess. Now, I've known Jess for maybe those 15 years. I'm not completely sure, but a lot of them. And I've seen the amazing work that she does. She puts her heart and her soul into her work. So it's such a pleasure to work with her. I know you work a lot on helping people bring their whole authentic selves to work. And that's so important. But I also know you've seen how overwhelm often shows up when people feel that they're constantly performing or hiding parts of themselves, when they, don't feel they can be themselves at work. So can you talk us through what you typically see when someone comes to you and says, I'm completely overwhelmed? What's usually going on beneath the surface that they might not even realize, do you think?
Okay, thanks, Jenny, and thank you for your kind words. So when clients come to me overwhelmed, on the surface, it will manifest as too much to do and too little time to do it in. But underneath, it's less about capacity and what they've got on their plate, although, this will be a real and present challenge. But it's also about their identity. So in terms of the role that they take in their situation or the system that they're operating in, the expectations they have of themselves in that role, and also the expectations that they believe others have of them. And so what I see going on with clients most often are three things. Okay, so firstly, they're carrying lots of responsibility. And sometimes this is self-prescribed, so things that they haven't actually consciously agreed to, but they're really playing into that kind of narrative that they are a safe pair of hands. And I know this is something that I found for myself in my corporate career. And so when you're that safe pair of hands, you hold everything together, you don't want to let anyone down. And so what happens is that you're carrying a lot of invisible work, and you're really responsive and you're reactive, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing, but it leads to you being in back-to-back meetings, you're spinning lots of plates, you're constantly responding rather than actually doing that deep, focused, strategic work. And that becomes unsustainable. And I see this a lot with leaders who really care deeply for their teams, but they just take on too much. So that strength of care becomes almost like an overplayed strength. And secondly, what I find is that they're performing to this kind of prescribed idea of who they are and what their strengths are, and actually lose the ability to hone in on the strengths that energize them. And so just to give you an example, a client I was working with recently, they work in comms, and they were talking about how they were increasingly being dragged into pitches and the scoping of projects, which they found really sort of mentally exhausting and time draining. And when we delved a bit deeper, what we uncovered was that in their role as a comms lead, they had some budgetary responsibility. And although they could do it, and they'd learned to do it well because it's a requirement of their role, it wasn't really where their strength lay. And it was actually pulling them away from that kind of creativity and collaboration, which was also a very important part of their role. And that's the part of their role that really energized them. So our work really focused around how they could create the right boundaries to make space for work that actually energized them and helped them to to really shine. So they weren't just playing into what others expected of them, but actually what really energized them. And thirdly, the third point, which I find is probably the most important thing, is that overwhelm is less about a to-do list, and it's usually about emotional labor, because you have that fear of disappointing people, that worry of being judged, or feeling guilty for needing space. And leaders I work with can find that they're under this pressure to be seen as resilient, that they can overcome everything. And actually that brings loneliness. And they bring that loneliness to the sessions because, no man is an island, as it were, no woman is an island. But as a leader, sometimes people can fall into the trap of feeling like they have to be this, self-sufficient island. So actually the overwhelm is, it's not so much about the work, as I say, it's really about the three key things going on under the surface. And it's about, boundaries, responsibilities, and I think ultimately not feeling like one's able to play to their strengths.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so interesting what you said here, because I imagine some people have come on as in the audience and thinking someone's going to help me learn how to do less. But what I'm hearing from you is it's not necessarily less, it's different. Yeah, and the different can be finding what energizes you. It can be being more strategic about what you choose to do. And it can also be letting go of people's expectations of you. So I think that's a key thing that coaches are great at. And it sounds like you're really great at helping people reframe their situation and choose new actions, choose different actions, which are going to serve them better.
Yeah, and actually really being able to distinguish between what the real expectation is and what your perceived expectation is as well, because we can think that people want something or people expect something of us based on our own kind of value system and wanting to do a good job, or feeling like we have to play a particular role. And sometimes that's not even there, and it just grows and builds and leads to the overwhelm.
Yeah, so that, challenging your own perceptions again, sometimes really hard to do by yourself. I think you do need a thinking partner to help you through that process.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jess. That was so insightful in terms of your response to that, and that aha moment that person had, recognizing actually this is this is what I need to be doing. It's not what I thought I needed to be doing. And those aha moments, how do you feel as a coach when you see them with your clients?
I mean, there's a real joy, isn't there? I think we can all say as coaches, when I always say, you see the lights come on, and it can feel like the most simple thing can have a huge impact. So I found with clients, so for example, talking about putting boundaries in place, giving themselves permission to put a boundary in place and to say no. It's such a simple thing. We talk about it a lot. We talk about no being a complete sentence, but actually it has such a huge, far-reaching consequence when a client can do that. The difference it makes to their lives and their careers, there's a real joy in seeing that for others.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I see it shining through you. So thank you so much. That's so helpful. I want to say hello. Is it Chidinma? Hi there. Welcome to you. Great that you're here with us today. I hope you caught Jess there. But if not, you will be able to watch the replay because you missed some nuggets if you missed out there. So Martha, I'm going to come to you now. You bring this incredible somatic and wellness perspective to your coaching. You mentioned it in your introduction. You're looking at what's happening in the body, not just in the mind. And I'm curious, when someone's drowning in overwhelm and their to-do list is ridiculously long, What are you noticing in them physically before they even tell you how stressed they are? Yeah, tell me about that. And I just want to say, actually, before you answer that question, maybe you're thinking about your response. We attended together. We were on a panel together at it was called the Black Voices in Coaching Conference, and Martha did this incredible exercise that just shifted the whole room by getting us into our body. So I've seen it in action. I know the bodily work can make such a difference. But yeah, it would be lovely to hear from you, Martha.
Thank you, Jenny. In terms of how people first approach overwhelm, it's often set patterns before we've learned to speak. So that's why it can be difficult to people to say, actually, I'm overwhelmed. And that's why it's useful, whether you're a manager or a colleague, to kind of notice some of these bodily signals before people can actually articulate it, before they can say, I need help, I want to work with a coach. So it's like, so it's a signal. And so I brought a little demo here. Look, this is like the stress bucket, you know. We get an email saying the budget's blown, so we sort of add a bit more in. So it just keeps on going up and up and up, right? And then you ask me, what are the signals that this is going up? So I'm doing a visual mark of what's happening inside. And so often, when I think back to myself, for example, I would hold my breath because I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. So there's this sort of tension like this. And it's kind of a sign of there's too much to process. I'm bracing. And then it's like an invitation to, can we just slow it down? Or, you know, that simple practice of, inhale in for 3, exhale out for 6, to really kick in the vagus nerve and the part of the nervous system that can slow us down and make us more attuned to what's going on. So that's the challenge really, is can we perceive what's going on in this overwhelm? What are the signals? Another one is classic is you may find your colleague starts to have a twitch in their jaw, because the jaw is what I call one of the first responders to any situation, particularly if you have like a fight orientation or fleeing. The jaw gets activated along with our hips. So just notice if you feel like people have got tight clenching, or you do it yourself in those, and that can also be a sign of overwhelm for people as they're kind of preparing for the threat. Is my boss gonna like give me a hard time? Am I going to fail in this presentation? And there's all this like going on. Or them complaining about, I need to go to the dentist, because they're constantly grinding their teeth, and they will just see it as, it's just something, but actually it may be their signal that they're overwhelmed. Other things are just like what I call emotional flooding, where like you notice somebody's a bit teary, gone quiet, they're withdrawn, they're there but the lights are off, they're kind of answering you but they're really more absent than present, and it's like it's clear they're past the capacity to process anything that you're really saying to them, because it's just kind of, there's a glaze in the eye really. And I'll show you something later where we can sort of play with ourselves around that. Other things are like when people start complaining about, you're talking too loud, turn that music down. The lights are too bright in the office. You get irritated by things where the previous day you were fine with it.
Okay. I get tension in my shoulders. And the other thing I do, I start sighing. I do a lot of sighing.
You're trying to access more breath. Because you've been holding the breath.
Yeah.
That was a signal for me that I was holding my breath, was the sigh. There's also just because of modern technology, people are just on their phones, like they're scrolling, because it's like this compulsive behavior, because they need to let go of this discharge the energy in their body, and they're finding a way to do it. So they'll be on the phone doing this, or fiddling with a toy to try and distract themselves. And so what they may need to do is just go for a walk, to discharge it, or move about the body. Or if you can't move, is to do some really extensive stretching or shaking to kind of let go of what's going on,
So the idea, like if I'm recognizing any of these symptoms in myself, is that what I should do? Go out for a walk, shake my body? Because I'm sure all of us are recognizing in ourselves. I feel like it's so common to feel stressed, overwhelmed. I think, we have so much coming at us. We've got too much information coming at us, so we can't actually cope with it, can we? I don't think, whether it's coming through the phone, the laptop, the TV, people talking to us, it's like, oh my gosh. I don't think that's just because of a little bit of introversion. I think that's just, there's a lot of overwhelm of information, and as a result, a sense of overwhelm. So yeah, what do we do when we feel
I mean, another thing to do is to literally pull your ears, because we have cranial nerves around here. So it's a really shortcut way to access the brain to tell it we can relax. So by pulling our ears like this, you can do this at your desk, to keep on pulling your ears up and down. Then you're accessing.
Well, it would make me laugh anyway, which I'm sure is going to really overwhelm.
I did this at a retreat day, and then somebody taught their daughter how to do it in the evening, and they really loved it with their kids. So it became a bonding moment between parent and child. Another thing to do is, because when people are overwhelmed, then their sense of threat is really distorted. What's going to happen in this? So if somebody's stuck at their desk in a Zoom or Teams meeting, I say to them, the role of your body is to keep you safe. And what you can do is just to orientate the body from your desk by looking around. So literally just looking around and seeing where are the doors, windows, and exits. And by doing this, you're twisting the neck. So you're releasing some of the nerves that can actually get toned by doing this, to release some of the tension in the body whilst you're looking around you. And you may also have an object in your room that kind of brings you joy and relaxes you. It may be a photo of a family or a favorite piece of artwork. And so you're looking around and you're seeing something that's soothing, and it just helps you ground more in the body, in the reality of the now, as opposed to these unquestioned threats that are running you ragged about what you have to do or who you need to be. So it's just a moment to kind of invite you to come down and be more present. And these are little nibbly things. So they're not to be just done once and done. It's just, if we have daily practices of these little micro movements and practices over time, we're teaching the body how to release tension little and often without even thinking about it over time, just like we go and brush our teeth or whatever.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So many tools there, from breathing. We've got to remember to breathe, to stepping outside, to moving our body in different ways to help us and recognize that we are storing a lot of this overwhelm in our body. Thank you. That's so helpful. We've got a question, but I will come back to the question because I really want to hear from Lisa before I come back to that question. Thank you, Martha. So Lisa, we're thinking really practically here, although everyone has provided practical strategies. And I just want to say, I've been to 2 of your launches of your amazing documentaries. They're fantastic. So do look them up if anyone hasn't found Lisa's documentaries, because they're fantastically done and very inspiring and eye-opening too. So, Lisa, I love how your clients talk about how you help them with practical things like time management and goal setting, but in a way that actually sticks, because we're always working on those things, but we need it to actually land, so we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. We've all tried the productivity hacks and the planners. I've got lots of them in my cupboard here. What's different about working with a coach on this? How does coaching help someone actually take control of their week rather than just rearranging things that they've done before? Tell me.
Well, the diaries and the planners do work when used well, so not knocking those ones. But when you work with a coach, they can help you facilitate looking into your capacity and identify areas where something might need to shift, because those signs of feeling overwhelmed, whether that's mentally, emotionally, or physically, they're just warning signs that something may need to shift. It's not that you're failing in any way. It just means something needs to change. So what I do as a coach is I help people strengthen their internal boundaries. Now, lots of people talk about external boundaries, and that's what we say and do, with others. But internal boundaries, they're the ones that stop you from overcommitting, overthinking, and overfunctioning. So that's where the real transformation happens. And it's learning to manage our thoughts, our emotions, our impulses, our expectation, and even our self-respect. So firstly, I'll get them to be aware of themselves and their triggers. Some of those things have been mentioned already, but why do you say yes when you mean no? When you feel resentful because you've said yes, or you feel guilty because you're resting. So be aware of those things and those triggers. And then secondly, we'll look at separating feelings from facts, because by doing that, you develop emotional self-control and resilience. So just the fact of knowing that a feeling isn't a fact and that a thought isn't the truth, and that you can feel guilty and still make the right choice is really important. Separate those feelings from the facts. Yeah. And then the next thing I'll say is slow down. That's been mentioned as well. Simply slow down, create that space, and actually ask yourself, what do I want to get out of this? Is this mine to carry? Is this what I need to do? If I say yes, will I regret it? Just take that pause to just stop and think and slow down. What is the outcome that you really want to happen? And the last final two things is to take responsibility for what's yours and to release what isn't. So many times we pick up things that are not ours to carry. So it's about taking responsibility for what's yours and releasing what isn't. And I know this is a project management, program management tool from back in my days of this coaching career that I've got now. But the RACI tool is really good at defining roles and responsibilities, communication plans, risk management plans, all those sorts of things, because it's our responsible. Who's responsible for getting it done? A is the accountable, and that might be the person that's responsible, but it might not be. They're just accountable for making sure it happens. And then the C is consulted, who are the people and the groups that you need input from, feedback from, to make sure the task is completed well, and they should be liaising with the people that's responsible. And I is informed, who are the people or the groups of people that need to be kept up to date. But by strengthening those internal boundaries, it can really help you work from a place of choice rather than pressure. And I think that is what makes a big difference.
Can I ask a question? Thank you so much. You've given a lot of tools and techniques straight away, which are, are really helpful. And also that idea as well, that our emotions are telling us something, but also do we need to challenge those feelings sometimes? So I think that's really helpful addition to our conversation. But what happens if you've got a plan? I've looked at my week up at, in advance. I've assessed the risks. I've thought about what I'm going to do each day. And then Wednesday, a curveball happens. I don't know, a crisis situation, an emergency. What do you do? What happens then?
So again, that's life, unfortunately, and it never works out the way, especially for me anyway. It never works out the way I planned it all the time. There's always something that may come up. And it's just that take a moment, just stop, take a moment, stop and breathe, as Martha has said as well. Just stop and breathe and reassess. Just take that moment to reassess. What is the priority? What is in your control? Who can help? You don't have to do everything alone. What can you do? And what can others do? And it's, in that moment of stopping, reassessing, you can then make the decision and, like I said, the choice to inform whoever needs to be told, you need to do this, or can you help with this? I need support with this, and to take the action that's needed. So I'd say take a moment, reassess, then inform and action, what needs to happen going forward.
Thank you. What's coming through is a very clear signature presence from all of you. The way you support people, the way you help people, the way you think, the way you reframe, the way you engage the body, the way you use frameworks that are going to enable people in a really practical way. So it's great to hear that, and the different lenses that you all bring to your coaching, which makes you all very unique, which is great. And I also want to say welcome to Junior, who uses the emotional regulation system as part of his coaching. Also to Sosa, apologies if I pronounced your name incorrectly, but I'm going to go to Sosa's question, which is, how does one teach a person to say no? I've got enough on my plate. Yeah, how does someone Yeah. Do you teach someone through coaching, or do you enable them? Do you ask them questions to get them to that point? Or are there some personal anecdotes you've got from your experience that you'd like to share about saying no? So maybe a little hand from the person who wants to answer this question. Hi, Jess.
Just to offer perspective, I encourage my clients, when we have that question, I don't know if you can teach someone to say no. So I say, ask yourself the question. So it's drawing on something that Lisa said about your internal boundaries. What are you saying yes to? When you say no, because every time you say yes to something else, you're saying no to something for yourself. So turn it around. So I'm saying no to this in service of saying yes to the thing you're saying yes to. And sometimes that can make the no a bit easier, because you know that you're saying yes to something else.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point. For example, if you say yes to working late, maybe you're saying no to spending time with your children,
Yeah.
so you get really clear on it. So yeah, that's a great framework and a great way to help people. Thank you, Jess. Anything else from Lisa and Martha on that?
Okay.
Lisa?
I know someone said to me to say no to yourself first. So instead of taking it on, say no to yourself first. Like, you're not going to take it on because, and then if you've got a reason for why you're not taking it on, then obviously that's a valid reason for not taking it on, and it's easier then to say no. So it's something that's work in progress for a lot of people, but yeah, say no to yourself first.
Yeah, for me, it's about a pause. If your natural reaction is to say yes, pause. Maybe bring it to your coach. Think, oh, actually, I won't say yes to that. I'm going to have my coaching session. I'll talk it through with my coach, and then I'll decide. I mean, not everything can wait till whenever you're going to see your coach, but if it can, that can give you the pause, and it can help you reflect and really fully understand what you're saying yes or no to. Craft your response with your coach could be a good thing to do, and then go out confidently. So the pause for me is the most helpful thing in not overcommitting. Can I get back to you? Oh yeah, can I reflect on that? Can I think about it? Just buy yourself some time, and have a really good conversation with your coach if you can. But even if you can't, just pause and reflect. I think it helps. Great. So
yeah, building on those, Jenny, I mean, I've had a few clients actually create a funny pause button for their desk, because so much is digitally stored now, but to have something physically on a desk as an aide memoir is really powerful, kind of physical thing to keep it like, oh. And also in my 20s, one of my first workshops I ever attended was led by a woman that said 20 ways to say no. And some of them are quite funny, like, oh, you didn't realize I'm no longer doing that role. I suggest you ask Mary to do that, or Jack, or, all of that stuff. Another thing as well I find is that the body signals the no as well, or their hesitation. So I'll just reflect back to them what I'm seeing happening in their body in real time. So just to gently unfold it that way. I noticed that you've braced yourself. I've noticed that you've pulled a face, or,
Yeah,
some people are bad poker players.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm sorry I spoke over you. I got excited by what you said.
So what was it that you do?
Well, what I was thinking is sometimes my body is telling me that I fear, but it might be not the fear from, I should go towards my fear. So they need to work with a coach like you to understand their body enough that they don't think, oh, I got tense when they said that, I need to run away from it. Because sometimes you're tense because it's a stretch, aren't you? And it could be exciting. So I feel like that somatic work is where you get to understand what those the reactions of your body are as well.
I mean, one time I worked with someone, and it was, so we'd established what the no was, where she didn't want to be career wise, and then we played with her body, and then she had an itch in her finger, and she realized that she wanted to write.
Ah, wow.
Yeah. So it can be very playful, the way kind of revelations unfold. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you. So I've got a question for you, which is something I see all the time. People know what they need to do to reduce overwhelm. They know they should say no more, they should delegate better, they should take proper breaks, but they just don't do it. I'm curious to know what each of you see as the biggest barrier Is it that they need permission for someone to say, yes, go and have a lunch break? Yes, it's okay to say no, people will still respect you. Is it about their identity, which Jess was drawing on, the idea of actually, because of who I am, my background, that I need to behave in a certain way? What do you think stops people from making the changes that they know they need to make? And I'm going to start with you again, Jess.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I think identity is a big thing, and that idea of not wanting to let people down, because we have these conceived notions of where we sit in our system or in our situation, and we don't want to move away necessarily from that position because it's scary for us, but also it unmoors those around us as well. And so I think particularly as you are in more of a leadership role, there's that idea that people are depending on you, people are looking to you, and you don't want to upset the apple cart so that, you know, it throws everything out. And I think that stops people from then, you know, maybe doing the things that's better for them personally or, you know, physically, because they don't want to let other people down.
Yeah, so there's some outdated thinking and some testing of what actually does let people down. That willingness to test that it's probably not going to let anyone down. It's going to be okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Martha, what about you? What do you think stops people?
Well, this was a live question for me last week as I was co-leading a leadership retreat for these senior people. What shifted was I actually said to one of them, I'm not here to convince you to work fewer hours. But what shifted it was, because it was a team coaching, was the testimony of colleagues who've already paid the cost of working too hard. And it didn't change in that moment, but when they came back the next day, that person proudly announced, I did not read my emails when we finished the retreat day. I only took one call, but I did not do emails because they were so moved. So that's about the neurology of like compassion. And, you know, when you know somebody's been there, they're not preaching at you, but they've been somewhere, and it kind of just melts the heart a bit. And you're just moved by the testimony of somebody else, and you're like, oh, so it touches somewhere, and they go away and they come back. Yeah. I saw that live and direct last week. Yeah.
Beautiful. It also reminds me of the sort of coaching approach where which I've done, is sort of put yourself in your best friend's shoes and see what would they say to you. You know, how would they react to what you're doing? And just that recognition that you know, they kind of heard it. They're not a best friend, but a colleague told them about their experience. Sometimes they need to hear it, and sometimes they need to hear it from themselves as well. So yeah, that sort of Gestalt technique that some coaches use also. Thank you. And what about you, Lisa? You know, what do you think gets in the way of people making change?
I think people tend to slip back, especially leaders, slip back into doing mode rather than leadership mode. So, you know, as leaders, we're there to create conditions so that people can do the work to get things done. However, sometimes we slip back into doing mode where you think that, you know, it's quicker to just do it yourself rather than to explain to someone else. Or, you know, and you have these measurements of like, we need to get all these things closed and done and signed off so that, you know, we can move on to the next thing. And those are signs to spot that you're slipping back into doing mode rather than leadership mode. And the doing mode is also great because you get those short-term speedy results, but it doesn't help with your, you know, your long-term capacity and better decision making and stronger teams and all those things that people have learned from staying in the doing mode in that role. So I think it's understanding that you're going back into doing mode and stepping out of that.
I've seen it so much, and I think everyone will have done. Those people who are just like, the place will fall apart without me, but they don't recognize that they're reinforcing that through being in doing mode. Yeah, I'll do it. I know it. I've got big shoulders. And then sadly they get burnt out and they're off. And the organization does keep going. Yeah, there is some knowledge gaps, but it keeps going. And I think it's also keeping that in perspective. It will keep going whether you're there or not. So be careful about how much of yourself you give. I mean, this conversation isn't really about burnout, but I think a consistent overwhelm will lead to that burnout feeling. And that's quite hard to come back from. So that recognition of that is useful for people. So let me know if you have any questions, anyone in the audience. We've heard so much great wisdom from our coaches. I think it's been really helpful. And what I think I've got is so many insights into, number one, how coaches can help with that sense of overwhelm, how they can help you take a step back, how they can help you think, look at it from different perspectives, introduce tools into the conversations, use your body, your emotion, your thoughts, your identity as material that helps you. So it's not just the standard, here's a framework, let's fix it. It's using everything that you have to help you work on your own challenges. And I think that is really, really good. So I've got a final question for you. What would you say to someone who's watching this and thinks coaching sounds great, but I'm too overwhelmed to even go out and have some chemistry sessions with coaches and then have some coaching? What would your reflection be back to them, or your thought be back to them? I'll start with Lisa this time.
So I offer micro coaching sessions where they're just small coaching sessions, 15 to 30 minutes, and it focuses on, one problem or one quick answer to give you the next step. I think by having those experiences and seeing the benefit for yourself, it's an encouragement to think, well, this worked, let me try it again, or try more, or bring other issues. So I think just boxing it and trying a micro coaching session, actually bring in something that you want to work on, something you want clarity with, and then see the benefit of attending that session.
Thank you. That's innovative. Thank you so much, Martha.
Sometimes I've just offered them a chill pill, which is literally a recording I have called Martha's 9-minute meltdown. And I said, do this in between meetings or you head home, just to start to create some space for you to reflect about your busyness. So not even talk about choosing the coach, but just to give you space, just to notice what happens when you give yourself space.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And Jess?
Yeah. I encourage people not to think of coaching as another thing to do, another thing on their to-do list, but actually a space, leading on what Martha said, a space to just stop, to breathe, and to get some perspective. So it's part of who you are and who you're becoming as a leader, as opposed to something to tick off your list.
Yeah. And also, imagine if you're in this situation 12 months from now, if you're in overwhelm now, it's not going away unless you take some action. And so sometimes you need to invest in the short term for your long-term gains. And that's definitely how I'd encourage everyone to think about it. If you don't want to be exactly where you are in 12 months, it's not going to resolve itself by itself. It needs you to do something. And so that investment in coaching is going to yield so much. And think about what that overwhelm is doing for you. Not good for your body, not good for your mind, probably not good for the colleagues around you. If you have a network of people around you, such as family or friends, you might not be being good for them either. So the ripple effect from that investment, it's amazing. So as you can hear, I'm a big fan of coaching. And as a coach myself, I think it makes such a difference. So I'd encourage everyone to think long-term instead of that short-term thinking. So it's been fantastic. Thank you so much to Jess, Martha, and Lisa. Your insights have been invaluable. Please do reach out to them. As you've been listening, I'm sure that you felt a connection with one, two, or maybe all three of them. Don't be afraid to look them up, connect with them. Consider if they could be your coach, book in for chemistry sessions with them, because I know that whoever experiences coaching with them will be positively impacted And do look up the Diverse Executive Coach Directory, which I founded to increase the visibility of coaches. Tanya will add the link in the chat as well. So our next event is on the 25th of February. Again, it's in our How a Coach Can Help season. This time we'll be tackling imposter syndrome. Again, it will be a LinkedIn Live. So do subscribe to our Eventbrite channel. And there, every session that we have will be coming up and you can book into it. And lastly, your feedback really matters to us. We've changed our format for this year. We'd love your feedback on what you think of it. And Tanya will also put the feedback link in the chat. It literally takes 1 minute. And it really does help us make these sessions as useful as possible for you. So finally, thank you to Jess, thank you to Martha, thank you to Lisa, and thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for the resources that you've shared. Thank you for your insights. Take care, everyone. And I'm really hoping, as a result of this session, that your life, your to-do list, everything that you're managing starts to feel a little bit easier. So thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.